When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Super Mario RPG. I didn't actually own it, but I did memorize the sticker number on the cartridge at my favorite video store just to make sure I always rented the copy with my save file. I actually bought that cartridge when the store inevitably closed years later, complete with that same sticker. So to say playing through Super Mario RPG's 2023 remake is a treat would be an understatement. That excellent game has been recreated incredibly faithfully here, to the point where I can recognize not only its charming levels and witty characters, but even every goofy little animated mannerism Mario has during conversations. With such a strict adherence to the original across the board, what stood out to me more than anything are the ways Super Mario RPG has changed. And from what I've seen so far, there's no place this classic has been tweaked more than combat. The original's combat was a simple but super entertaining turn-based system that rewarded you for well-timed button presses. That hasn't changed, but a host of quality of life tweaks and a couple entirely new systems have made each fight just a bit more engaging. Starting simple, some subtlety has been added to the button timing of your attacks and blocks. Pressing the A button at the right time during most attacks will still give you a boost in damage, but hit that timing even more precisely on basic attacks, and you'll now deal splash damage to every enemy on screen. That had some interesting new battle planning to the mix, where I could weaken one enemy with a direct hit before finishing them off with that free AoE. That's complemented by a helpful indicator that tells you when an enemy is almost down, but it's a risky decision if you end up mistiming the attack. On the blocking side, a perfect A-press will not only reduce damage, but negate an attack entirely. Supporting this newly expanded system is a clever hint mechanic that will display an exclamation point the exact moment you need to press A. At first I thought this was a little heavy-handed, but the brilliance of it is that it only sticks around until you get the hang of using a particular attack or blocking a given enemy. Nail the timing a few times on a move or block the ability of a specific enemy enough, and the training wheels come off as the symbol stops showing up, but let your timing start to slip and it'll come back to guide you. Timing your attacks and blocks has also been made more important, even against pushover enemies that could be cleared in a single AoE smash. That's because Super Mario RPG keeps track of how many successfully timed presses you've completed in a row, even between fights. I loved seeing how high I could get that number, and you're rewarded the better you do with small buffs and a slowly charging gauge meter. While that gauge is initially spent on a random and frequently unexciting buff from Toad, it doesn't take long for you to get a full party, and at that point, it transforms into a brand new and totally epic triple move. This super strong attack, complete with its own 3D cutscene, seems to be unique to whatever party you're using for that fight, and I can't wait to see what the other ones look like. You'll want those harder hitting powers too, as this remake shakes up your standard and quickly familiar encounters by occasionally throwing special enemies at you. These are just stronger and faster versions of the regular monsters, but they're beefed up enough that you can't always breeze through most fights on autopilot anymore. They don't drastically shake things up, but they have done a good job of making me rethink my strategy when I come across one. In fact, none of these changes feel like a total reinvention or anything, and I don't think they should. Instead, they simply freshen up and flesh out a fun combat system that was probably gathering a little dust by now, especially when similar games like the awesome Sea of Stars have recently introduced their own twists on timing-heavy turn-based RPG combat. So far, I'm glad to see that Super Mario RPG has been able to balance its faithful recreation of one of my favorite games with a willingness to improve it where it counts. If you just can't wait for this remake, you really should check out our review of Sea of Stars. Or if you want more Mario specifically, our review of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.